So, from your role as Jieeng Council of Elders, what can you say are your achievements, like politically? What do you have, like? Do you have any positive impact on the lives of South Sudanese, and in the government performance and in peace and all that? Can you say we have achievements?
Uh, I would not say that we have advised the government and on what to do with their program, but we have talked to the leaders as
Yes,
individual leaders on particular aspects which I cannot tell you right now because we are not trying to take a position of advisory body for the government. No, we are
yes,
a civil society that interacts with other civil societies. Even if
yes,
we meet the government leaders, we meet them on private capacities, on community basis. But we are not claiming that we have interfered with their government agendas. Otherwise,
yes,
we would be in the wrong. So we have interacted with our fellow communities, as I told you, whether they were nurses in different camps. We have interacted with them, and we think that that has contributed to a social cohesion.
yes. Okay. Um, I have been hearing a lot of criticism of your group, of the Jieeng Council of Elders, from other nationalities, especially from from opposition quarters, including some of Mwanjang. I have been hearing a lot. We've been hearing a lot of criticism. So, what how can I put it? What have you done actually that angered, or what made people think of you so in such a negative way?
Uh, David, we cannot uh, pinpoint what were the issues that people were critical about us. What we know is that
Yes,
we are we are senior citizens. Some of us have been playing political roles, and when we are seen together, people draw their own conclusions, and until they say what they think negatively about us, that when we can respond. But we cannot assume that everybody is against us or is critical about us, and we don't blame them because we are informed politically and socially. As you rightly pointed out, we are elders who have accumulated and inherited some wisdom, some wise ways of handling ourselves. So we think that we know what our country should be, and we make necessary contribution to whoever is interested in listening to us.
okay. I give you example. Some of the criticism I hear around all the time is that you, as a group, you are agents of division. The advice you give the government is causing division within the nation. That is one accusation that is leveled against you all the time. I hear it all the time. Another accusation is that you are the ones running the government. People say you are the ones running the government, and people say you made the government like become like a government of Jiang. What can you say about this kind of criticism?
Well, I think that is unfounded criticism. We are never part of the government and we are never agents of the government. When you are an agent of the government, it means that you are holding a position in the government for which you can speak for the government. but we are not holding positions. Whether we are members in some institutions like in the assemblies, we have members, many members in the National Assembly who are politicians in their own right and legislators. We have members in the Council of States, like where I'm talking from now, but that does not mean that we are talking for the government. When we talk about the government, we mean the executive. And therefore, we are not members of the executive. We are members of the South Sudan community alike and can
Yes.
play different roles. So if people draw up that we are running the government, it's not true. Those who are running government are those who are in the executive function. So we are not agents of the government, and we are not running the government because we are not holding any government positions. And there is a division of functions. You know the
Yes.
three legs of the system. If we are
Yeah.
in the legislature, we can contribute as legislators, but that does not
Yes.
mean that we are the members of the executive. The legislators can criticize the executive, and that is the government. So we are not part of that, and therefore we sit as Jieeng Council of Elders separately from our all positions. People like Molana Ambrose Ring are people who are on pension, and they are not agents of any government institution.
Yes. Okay. We are almost done with the interview, but the last part of my line of questions, is your recent statement. Your recent statement in relation to the national dialogue. So, what did you ask the government to do? What was your advice or request of the government? What was it?
For the last 2 years,
Yes.
JCE has been silent uh, on many issues that have been raised, and we have decided to break the silence by
Yes.
issuing out a document which is claiming solidarity with the people of the South that met under the national dialogue.
Yes.
Some of us were members of the national dialogue, uh, but the national dialogue was comprising of all the people of the South Sudan, right from grassroots. So the
Yes.
resolutions and recommendations, plus the covering note, which was signed and issued by the leadership of the national dialogue, we said we are in conformity, we are in solidarity with what the people of the South have said, and
Yes.
that's what we have issued.
So you confirm you agree with what the national dialogue resolved or recommended, and then you went ahead with that one and request the government to oblige. Is it?
Yes, we have requested the government to implement the recommendations and resolution of the national dialogue. We are in conformity with what the national dialogue has said, and therefore we are asking the government to implement, because that is the way forward for this country to survive.
What is the most important recommendation that you have supported within the national dialogue resolutions? What is the
You
most
know,
important one?
the national dialogue resolutions have identified what has gone wrong in the country, the
Yes.
weakness the weakness in the institutions all over.
Yes.
And take,
Yes.
for example, the security sector.
Yes.
Everybody is claiming to be a soldier. All the armament and the security in the country is not being controlled by the government. We have a lot of militias that were fighting the SPLA during the war, and they have come out in their big numbers holding their guns, and you can name them. and that's why there is no peace in Pibor area, because the militias that were there during the war have progressed and were armed by Khartoum and are still having their arms. The militias that were in Upper Nile under those in Pibor were under Ismail Konyi and was taken over by David Yao Yao, and they are still alive, holding big guns, which the government cannot even take over because they are powerful more than the government army. The same thing with Garwidwal, who has been made the chief of staff of Riek Machar forces in Launwer with the White Army, and they have their powerful guns that were given to them when they were fighting the SPLA. The same thing with Tomanur in Western Equatoria, Western Equatoria.
Uncle Joshua, let's welcome Mawan Mwatat. Mawan Gordon Mwatat has joined us.
Okay.
From London.
Okay.
Ready to go? Hello, hello, Mawan.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good evening.
Good morning, Uncle Joshua.
Hi. How are you, Nasib?
Oh, very well, thank you. Very well.
Nice to see you again after a long time.
Yes, nice to see you. It's really great. Thank you.
And by the way, Uncle, we are wearing red today because this is a Valentine week.
Okay.
Me and Mawan, we are aware about that. That's why we're wearing red.
That's great.
Both of us.
We are not conscious. We are not conscious in South Sudan. We are bogged down in the war.
You're not conscious about that stuff. Okay. So, Uncle Joshua, continue your answer, and until we finish this part of the interview, and I will give the chance to Mawan if he has any questions, he can ask you.
Thank you very much, David. I was saying the most important resolution of the national dialogue is the unity of the people of South Sudan to have their own country well governed by all of them. And therefore, they said the institutions must be reformed and must be transformed. These institutions, take example, the security sector is out of control. Everybody has a gun, and therefore proliferation of armament is unlawful, and therefore we have everybody taking advantage of the properties, looting, cattle rustling, and killing at random, and no killing with impunity. This, we said, it cannot continue. No country will be governed as it is now out of law, and therefore must be improved by establishing law and order. And we have a national army. Unfortunately, the national army we are working on now has not been put together by the agreement. And this agreement has just brought in all the militias wherever they are. And there is no vision of how to transform them into a national army. Therefore, this is a failure of the state, failure of leadership to govern the country with law and order. We have also said the services, the ministries of services are not effectively paying everybody their dues, so that the citizens are paying back to the government their due taxes, so that the government can manage institutions like medical services, like education, agriculture, infrastructure, roads. There's nothing that is being done. So there is a failure of governance, and therefore the people of the South in the national dialogue said there must be a government that is put in place through democratic processes, through elections. And these elections must be made transparent and credible by being supervised by regional and international bodies. Because our government at the moment is comprising of forces that are brought together by the agreement and not legitimate. Take all the militia government factions are brought, who have their own military command. You take example of Riek Machar, those whom he had put in the training camps, cantonment,
Yes.
are loyal to him. The same thing, those forces put to the cantonment camps by Hussein Abdel Babi are loyal to him. Because they are commanders-in-chiefs of those forces. They have not been put under a particular institution to train them, to transform them into national army, to have a nation ideology. Everybody is having his own forces. And this cannot be united, they don't have what is a vision of one national army. No ethics, no doctrine, nothing that has been put together to let them transform into a national army. So they are loyal to their respective communities and leaders. And there will be no time whenever they will come together. So we cannot govern a country ruled by militias. We cannot govern a country where the people forming the national government, like there are 5 vice presidents and 1 president, each of them has a cluster. And that cluster is not forming a national decision, national program. They have no one vision. So this cannot be if you have 6 governments in one. And those are brought not by constituencies, not by the vote of the people. They are brought by the power of their guns and power of political strength. And this is not one government. So we don't have one country, one government, one people. We have a fragmented society, a fragmented government. We cannot think that we will come together. It is going to fragment the country further. So the national dialogue has demanded the government brought by this agreement is not legitimate because it's not accounting to the people, it's not accountable to the people, and is not accountable to the bodies that brought them. And therefore, there must be election. And the only way to bring a government of the people is through the elections. And the vision of those who put this government together was to end up in an election. But this, the way we see it, it will end up in more war because the economy is not being put together. There's no correction of the economy. They are struggling for power. They are struggling for resources. And therefore, these 5 governments in one country will break up and they have their own army. So we think that the election must be implemented quickly. And this is to shorten the period by asking the mediators to intervene. It is 2.5 years now without forming, and we are extending it, the period every now and then. Why do we extend the period? And for how long? So we think that the national dialogue has brought in a system of shortening the period and going for elections so that we have to determine. And this government, which should be brought into existence, should be a government of technocrats. And that will comply with the certain rules, particularly forming the constitution and giving the parties to be formed. And the parties are the ones to go into elections. And therefore, whoever wins, that party or alliance of parties, that wins will be the one to manage the government and to improve the status of the country. This is how we think. Whatever the structure that will be, whether it is going to be during this period, transitional period of the government of technocrats, whether it is going to be like what the national dialogue had discussed, is it going to be a government we will be shared periodically by 3? Is it going to be like that of a government where the supremacy is Supreme Council of the state will be managed by 3 heads of who will be rotating? Is that going to be the method? The Southern people will discuss it and will define how it will be managed during this transitional period until the elections. This is how we have complied with the resolutions of the Nation Dialogue as the most important thing to transit from this chaotic system of of competition by militias and those who have not been mandated by the people of the South.
Thank you very much, Uncle, for your comprehensive answers. I have two more questions before I hand over to Marwan. Did you actually, in this your last request, did you ask the so-called the two principals? I mean, President Salva Kiir Mayardit and Riek Machar. Did you request them to resign?
If they have, was discussed in the national dialogue extensively, and scenarios were considered. That if they come through their parties, if they form strictly political parties, and they come through their political parties during the elections, no one can stop them from running in the elections.
For the office again.
But we take note of the people of the South. They have seen bitterness which has been voted upon them by the two leaders. So will the people again vote them? If they vote Riek in or Salva in, will they change? Will the other one not go to mobilize his people, his supporters, whether they are tribal or ethnic? Will he not again mobilize and cause more chaotic situation? So people will be the judges. They will vote people whom they think will not bring them chaos and war again. So we think that people will lobby and will propagate for people who can bring peace, and not the two leaders that have been struggling for power for no good cause and are not interested in the will and future of their people. So we have not.
So what is? We have not what is it? What is the mechanism? Because we know constitutionally, leaders are people who are elected, okay, in some kind of election. And now the system you are asking for, I don't know what is the basis of if you ask them to hand over to a government, a transitional arrangement, government of technocrats. What is the basis of that? Is it in the constitution or what is it? What is the basis of that?
The basis of their coming into the leadership now was by agreement. Was by agreement.
Okay.
Was not by the dictates of the constitution. By agreement, they have been put in the present setup. So by the same agreement, the same token, they should be asked to step aside and give the people of the South a benefit of bringing in their leaders. If they are going to be brought in by the people of the South, it is the will of the people of the South. And therefore, by this agreement, which has brought them in, it should be the same agreement that should take them out and allow the transitional period be managed by people who will not run for the presidency after the transitional period. And we have history of such a situation that happened in the Sudan when the parties failed to manage the country well. Somebody called Cyril Khatim al-Khalifa was brought in, and he managed the transition, and he did not contest after his period. He was preparing the people of the Sudan to bring in their own leadership. And therefore, we think that by this token of this agreement, the current leader should be requested to step down for the welfare of the common man and the citizen of the country that should be in peace.
Okay.